Welcome back. And we can finally use this background. I know Nick's been excited for it. President Loki is here, and he has some glorious purpose. I'll tell you that, along with a bunch of other Lokis we see in this spoiler review of episode 5 of Loki. I feel like I've said Loki a lot. And we're going to say it a lot more because there are a lot of them in this series.
Very much
especially in this episode. We start off with right where we left off. You know, we have Loki talking to, I almost said Hugh Grant, Richard E. Grant's variant, along with Kid Loki. Nick, what did you think of this whole intro sequence of the episode?
One of the things I really like about this episode as a whole, and they do it right off the start, is the way they're just willing to like roll with it. Like it's just Tom Hiddleston wakes up. There's Richard E. Grant in like a comic book accurate, but also goofy as hell looking Loki costume. There's a kid version of him holding a crocodile version of him, and there's what they were calling the boastful Loki, and they're just like, all right, we gotta go. It's like no, the creature whatever is like coming, and like there's just a level of like just going with it and like willingly embracing it, like that I like throughout this episode. I've liked about this show in some ways is like more out there than WandaVision, and it's been willing to like just the way they're playing it, I guess, like straight and like tongue in cheek in a way, is just very something I much enjoyed about like the show, this episode, and the sequence of just seeing like just all of the scenes with Richard E. Grant acting in that costume. I just think is like ridiculous. I think it's just a very like cool thing to see them play it in the way they do.
I want to say something, and I have to say it now because I know I'll forget otherwise. I have a theory, and it answers a lot of the plot hole questions that people may possibly have.
Okay.
Now, depending on how much whoever's behind this, the big bad, which we'll get into later, who it may be, is lying about the whole TVA in general and how time travel works. People are asking this question, like, how are these variants so much different, right? Like, how is Loki a crocodile? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know, how did he get this far if they didn't make it, like, they catch people the exact second after they have a variant moment, like Loki does in Avengers, right?
Right.
Well, my thing is, they talk about these multiverse wars.
Yeah.
And that this timeline won that war. And I will say that I think that these people could be, if that multiverse war ever actually happened and is true, these people could be from different spots in the multiverse. And because they can't get rid of matter, right, they can only transfer it to some special creature that can get rid of matter.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they did. Thus why you have all these different variants. They come from the multiverse. They aren't branches from this timeline.
I mean, it would fall in line with how DC is presenting their multiverse, or like this is how all these different Batmans occupy the same space, and it's because they're different points in this wider multiverse. And so the idea that like the TVA is not just confined to our timeline or our world, but is addressing all like multiple timelines, I think would be a way to like, it would make sense, and it would even work to go set up like what if multiverse of madness, like this, like I've been seeing a lot of discussion with what if confirmed to come out next month. I could definitely buy into that because it would work with how things are going and with like other source material. Just they're all from different areas.
We get a bunch of Easter eggs. We get Throg. We get the Thanos copter.
Yeah.
Which I love that is now a canon part of the multiverse. And we just get a bunch of other Easter eggs. We get to the lair, and we find out this cool thing on our way. That the Nexus event for Kid Loki is he killed Thor. I love that moment. It's like, you'd be good to respect him. It's like, oh, and what did your majesty do? Our Loki is like, variant Loki, as we call him, is like, and he's like, I killed Thor. And he just says it in such a badass way. He's like, you know, there's no way he's lying, right? Like, boastful Loki talks about defeating Captain America and Iron Man, and you're like, come on, you're lying. There is no doubt that Kid Loki actually killed Thor, and that was his Nexus event.
Yeah, it's definitely like just a great like, you meet a version of the Joker. It's like, oh yeah, I killed Batman. You're like, whoa, really? Like, it's just that inverse of the rivalry. I hope that kid, like, because Kid Loki is a part of the Young Avengers. So, and at this point, there's so many of them introduced. The project is all but confirmed at this point. I hope that kid in particular, that actor in particular, reprises his role, because I think he worked well against like Grant and Hiddleston and everyone else.
I thought he was really great. Wow, this is the problem of doing this a few days after watching the episode. Let's cut back to Sylvie, right?
Yeah.
And Sylvie's trying to get more information out of Ravonna, and we have this really interesting thing with Ravonna this whole episode. It's kind of hard to tell how much she knows. You know, is she trying to make a grasp of power
Yeah.
and get more information, and she knows more, she's just not trying to reveal it or not?
Right.
It's really interesting, and we get that start with her dynamic with Sylvie. What did you think about how that whole scene plays up all the way to the point where, spoilers, this is a spoiler review, where Sylvie prunes herself?
I thought it was very interesting just because like she is Ravonna is the most like enigmatic character, at this moment. And Mbatha-Raw plays her in a way that like she could be lying, she could be half telling the truth. It's a very like this is a planner type character. This is someone there's a plan going in motion right now. She has two backup plans ready to go as well. And I'm very interested to see how like it's like how they address her in the finale, because like this is either the most important like point between we've said his name so many times, just the last review, between like Kang and everything else, or it could be like she could be the branch to like bunch of other stuff. So it's very interesting, and I love how Guga has been playing her for all these past 5 episodes. I think she's been really good.
She's done an amazing job, especially in episode 4.
Yeah.
She absolutely kills it, and she continues to do so in 5, buying time with Miss Minutes, setting off the alarm on the low. I love how only 4 guards come to fight Sylvie. You may need some more than that based on what happened last time. But I love how Sylvie is able, she's a Loki. It's like, come on. She knows who's telling the truth and who's not. Like, if anyone knows what a liar looks like, I do. And she's able to decipher these moments of truth and lies.
Yeah.
And she's able to figure out, like, this pruning thing is real. Like, you go to a place after being pruned. And she's so smart that she takes the temp pad with her. So she has her way out. She gathers that this is at the end of time. And that if she's to get beyond the end of time, she can find whoever's behind this. I think that's a really interesting setup to this episode. And I think it really leads to us getting to a spot where I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, I do love the ongoing sort of like depiction that Sylvie's like the smartest Loki. Like I love the moment later on when she was like, that was your plan. And Tom Hiddleston is just like very much caught off guard. It's like, yeah. And she's like, you're an it. Like I just love that she's like depicted as like the smartest character.
Yeah, I mean, she's had the life experience to be the smartest, because to survive, she's had to be for like 20 years. You know what I mean? It's not like Loki's had kind of a privileged life, even though he's had like a really strenuous life in comparison to her. But it's just, she's lived a whole different level of having to outsmart the TVA, the most powerful organization in the universe. And I really like how this plays out. We get the 4 Lokis meet. There's this like moment where President Loki comes in, right? And it's like, oh, what's going on here? Everyone betrays each other, and there's this fight scene. And I know we're skipping over some stuff, and I'll go back to that retroactively. I gotta be honest, I thought this fight scene was kind of garbage. Like, I understand it's a joke and the Lokis are like fooling around at the end, but like it kind of felt a little too cheesy to me.
On a technical level, I know like for me, like Loki hasn't, when it comes to fight scenes, Loki hasn't been the best. Not there, like it's been a very action oriented thing, but like yeah, the fight scenes have not been the best. I mean, I was kind of rolling with it in the sense like that, like the one shot of like you see Richard E. Grant's like illusions like fighting and just mass chaos, everyone's yelling and before they all like quietly walk away. Like I thought that was like funny in of the moment, but I don't know. I was okay with it in the sense I was just like, this is just chaotic bar fighting. I saw it more as a bar fight than like this was like a fight for like survival or something like between warriors. I was like, this is just a funny bar fight, essentially.
Right. I love how Mobius survives too.
Yeah.
I did wonder why Mobius needed to be given the temp pad
Mhm.
because he has a temp pad. Oh no, he hands it over. Never mind. Scratch that.
Right.
I'm not being smart. That is my fault. I tried to create a plot hole where there was none.
Right.
Mobius survives somehow. The what is it called? Alioth?
Yep. Something like that. Elias,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, Elias. I wanted to say Leviathan, but that's something else that we also see as an Easter egg in the episode.
Right.
And he picks up Sylvie, who gets pruned. He somehow knows it's Sylvie,
Yeah.
which was kind of confusing to me.
Mhm.
But maybe there was a part of Mobius's plan that we didn't see on screen, right?
Right.
I could have used a little bit more of an explanation to that, but it's just plausible enough that I can excuse it and be fine with it.
Right.
It's like bordering on a plot hole, but not quite. So they get off. I love that relationship that Mobius has and the humor he kind of creates in the episode. It's very like Owen Wilson-y, but it doesn't feel out of character.
Yeah.
And we get this meetup, and they're kind of like, we get that moment where Sylvie's like, that was your plan that you were talking about earlier, which I thought was a really great moment because when Loki sees that ship just get absolutely demolished, he's like, oh God.
Stop.
I don't know about this, guys. It's like when someone wants to get in a bar fight and you see the guy who wants to get in the fight just knock someone completely out. And you're like, actually, I think I'm going to go home now. That might be a better idea. That was kind of the vibe Loki was giving in that moment. So what did you think from that point forward on they create the plan to enchant the Lyeth based on that moment that Sylvie had as she's sliding and she sees like a little bit into the Eliath's mind?
Yeah. As always, Loki's production design and VFX never fails to impress. So the whole like just setting is just really great. I'm trying to remember. It was maybe like a bit elongated, or at least I thought it was being a bit of an elongated conflict until like Richard E. Grant stepped in, and then I was like, okay, so this is what we were building towards. I don't know. I wouldn't say it was my favorite part of the episode, but I thought it was still like the visuals of it all kind of always kept me engaged.
Yeah. Let's get to the final part before the action sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Sylvie and Loki have this talk. I love how they're both frost giants.
Yeah.
Yet they get cold, which they're not cold. Spoiler alert, guys. They don't need the blanket because they're cold. So we get to that whole scene, and it's kind of cute, and they're trying to navigate like a teen relationship type thing where they don't quite know how things work, right?
Yeah.
Because they haven't been in a thing where they actually care for the other person before.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about that moment and kind of like the tightrope they're walking here of like a will they, won't they, what type of thing are they relationship?
Yeah, I'm just very interested to see how this gets wrapped up in the finale. I'm interested to see a lot of things in the finale, but like Loki is a character that we have no clue on where he goes from here. Like I know there's discussions of like maybe a season 2, but even then, like movie wise, we have no idea where he or she fits. So do they both make it out? Does not one not make it out? Do they make it out even like together in that way? So they're definitely teasing it, and they're definitely like trying to establish this connection that they've had since they first laid eyes on each other in episode 2, and Loki decided to follow her through the like portal. So I don't know. It's interesting to see. It's interesting to see.
I agree. And we'll see how it goes. I have a few things I'll bring up at the end about that relationship. Um, we get this massive sequence. Loki is not able to distract the Eliath,
Mhm.
and all seems to be lost. And Richard Grant has this amazing moment where he just conjures this massive projection because he talked about, I conjured a illusion so strong that Thanos thought it was real.
Right.
I thought that was also, I have to bring that up now because it's such a cool moment. I thought like, oh, that is an awesome thing to do.
Yeah.
And I just like that idea as an alternate reality, is like that is what happened. And people who say, oh, is Loki alive? No, Loki died in this reality. He's dead. Thanos snapped his neck.
Exactly.
That's not what they're saying. That's not what they're trying to say.
Right.
Loki's dead. He's dead. He's dead. I'll say it again. He's dead, because I've seen this over the internet too much. It's a different reality.
Yeah.
But that when he conjures this massive illusion, I was just, the scale of it and the scope in this episode, it just felt so grand. I really thought it was one of the best ways of elevating scale in the MCU on television so far.
Yeah, Loki has always really, at the end of the day, been the most ambitious just in terms of technical level. No offense to WandaVision's costumes and period shooting style of shooting, but it's always just been very cool to see how much of Loki is like not in a like he's always in a area, a setting, and that's in flux. Like it's always different. It's always something like out there. It's really engaging to see.
Yeah, and they're, Richard E. Grant's character dies. Mobius yeets out of there a few minutes before the fight. He's like, I ain't sticking around. I'm going to mess up the TVA because I know a lot about it. Good luck with that, by the way. I don't know how that's going to work out. But they enchant the Eliath, and there they go. They are on their way to whoever the villain is. We don't find out who the villain is. It's episode 5.
You're not.
No post-credit scene. And here's my thing. I don't know how they're going to wrap everything up in a really satisfying way, because not only do they have to, it feels like that was the first half of Act 3, like the coming up to fighting the final boss of Act 3. But they still have a lot to do because we don't know who this villain is. So you have to introduce the villain as a character. You have to introduce the villain as it relates to the TVA. Like, that's a lot to do in an episode by itself, where we don't even get a shot of who this villain is, right?
Right. I think I don't know. This could work out. I don't know, because I remember like going into WandaVision and Falcon's finales, and I was like, I have no idea how all of this can possibly be wrapped up. But like, in a way, I'm like strangely calm about Loki, just because like I feel like at least thus far it's been paced like in a way that I've been like I've been able to take everything and like it's all followed in like one proper flow. Could it completely fall apart in the finale? Yeah, like we've all seen that happen before, but I'm strangely optimistic about it. Although I do acknowledge, like, yeah, they either have to they have to wrap up the TVA. They have to send Loki off to presumably his next spot. We had a video covering a parent season 2, so maybe we're just gonna get left on a cliffhanger till 2023 or 2022, and we'll just be just left to figure out what's going on there. So I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting though. I think this show like more than the other two feels like there could be a lot of like possibility. I don't know, like they've been pushed. This has been a redemption story for Loki, so I would assume that at the very least it ends. This season tries to end on that point, or as close to that point as the character can be.
Right, right. And that's one of the things. We don't know if this is a limited series or not. And that's a really great point. We may get the reveal at the very end, and there will be a Loki season 2. You know what I mean? And that could be a really cool reveal where they could give you enough information and leave you for season 2. Let's move on to are we pretty sure the villain is Kang the Conqueror at this point?
I don't know. I'm like, you cast Kang, you cast his girlfriend, you show I'm still holding to this that little Miss Minutes like animated feature in the first episode that looks a lot like Jonathan Majors, so like that has to be on purpose. Like I can't see that being any other way. So and like we had this discussion, like I would say, like I think our episode like 4 review, um it's either going to be someone else, some sort of placeholder, or it's going to be like it's either going to be Kang or there's going to be a hint towards Kang at the end, like one final like the maybe the bridge to season 2 is, oh, we have to go find him, and season 2 sets up Quantumania.
Right.
I'm confident that he's going to make an appearance. I hope I don't get Doctor Strange like in WandaVision. Um, but I don't know. I'm more confident around that. At the very least, he's going to make an appearance because technically, like, again, they showed him in the animated ad. It looks like Jonathan Majors. His casting was announced months before this show was announced. They have his girlfriend in there. It's something has to be shown, or something has to give.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I think it's most likely where it's going
Mm-hmm.
is Kang the Conqueror in this episode. It seems to be what makes sense. Is there a small possibility it's Doctor Doom? Yes. Is there a small possibility it's another Loki variant? Yes. Is there a smaller possibility that it's, I can't remember, the One Beyond or something like that? I can't remember the
Yeah.
name.
Mm-hmm.
There's this obscure character. Sure, but Kang seems to be the one that all roads lead to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about another thing. Let's say they're successful, they overthrow it, they win.
Yeah.
There was this moment where Sylvie's like, how do I know you're not going to betray me? And I know for me, alarm bells started ringing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this feels like setup,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I were to give you a 40% line over under, are you
Yeah.
taking the over or under that at some point in this next episode that Loki is betrayed by Sylvie?
There is, I don't know, because, well, again, like we were just talking about their relationship, and they're obviously trying to tease this connection between them. What better way, as having been through it before as a long-time television watcher, for them to like rip it out from under us. um I could also see them, like Tom Hiddleston being the one to betray her, and like him, like this is also massive long con, because it is his show after all. um I feel like if anything, it's going to come down to like the classic, like, are you a good man? Will you make the good choice, or are you gonna like choose to like run away again? I think some version of that situation, I feel, is probably gonna be what happens. And even Richard E. Grant says something in this episode where he's like, "We're all the same. We've all been acting the same. We're all like trying to backstab. We're broken." That's what he says. We're broken. I was like, well, that's definitely gonna be a thematic plot. That has to be a thematic plot point come next episode, because the reoccurring theme has been like, can you change your state, can you change your nature type thing. So it's going to
Right.
come down to that. I think it'll be interesting to see, here are two versions of a character that is known for backstabbing, quite literally, as Mobius points out. So who will like strangle who will not strangle who. I think it'll be very interesting setup for the finale.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll be curious how Ravonna comes into the finale because we know she's going to find a way in. Um, and I think she's going to end up trying to protect Kang or whoever the timekeeper is. Because I think she's in this like crisis of identity of she doesn't know what else she's supposed to do if that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is her purpose otherwise? So I think that's interesting, and that may lead into the Kang and Ravonna Renslayer love story that we see.
Yeah.
Or maybe Kang is just a part of the timeline, right? And you could kill this version of Kang and destroy the TVA, and Kang can be a separate entity who is a villain in the timeline, right?
Yeah.
There's so many ways this could play out, which I think is what makes the show so interesting and so much different. I love the element of the TVA. I think this episode was a little bit slow to the point, but I still really enjoyed it. I'll be curious to see how they wrap it up next episode. I'll be curious to see how long the next episode is,
Right.
because I think that may dictate to what level stuff is wrapped up in the show, which I think they need to do just from think about it. Most of the people that watch Loki aren't hardcore fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're casuals.
Yeah.
So they do need to have some sort of conclusion. Nick, do you have any final thoughts before we head out?
No, I'm excited. I've been on this ride, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. So I'm all set for the finale.
All right. With that, let us know in the comment section down below what you guys think is going to happen in the finale. Who do you think is the villain? What twists do you think we could see coming? Let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. We'll see you next time.
All right. Peace out.